Good evening from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. We are moments away from the Deputy Presidential Debate of 2022, organized by the Presidential Debate Secretariat. My name is Michelle Ngaleo Odhiambo from K24 TV, and I am not alone. The entire media fraternity is working round the clock to bring you this live debate. This is the third deputy presidential debate in what has become a tradition in Kenya's election cycle since 2013. We have a live audience at the Pope Paul VI Learning Resource Center to witness this debate, which will be aired live across all TV and radio stations across the country. Viewers watching live can send in their live comments on the short code 22843 and the hashtag Presidential Debates KE 2022.
And of course, it's debate night tonight. Very interesting. This is the first of the two today, the second of the six, the second of the four, and of course, it will be the battle of the deputy presidents. An interesting night right here at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. Now, this venue is very significant, and we'll be telling you the significance of this venue. But first, the significance of this debate. Now, this is very important because it will help you make a decision going forward. Exactly 20 days, Michelle, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll have to make a decision based on what you hear here tonight and based on what you've been hearing on the campaign trail. And tonight we'll be presenting 4 deputy presidential candidates. I'll be telling you about them shortly, Michelle.
Absolutely, and this debate tonight takes place in 2 tiers. We will have the first debate, which will feature candidates whose popularity ratings based on 3 recent opinion polls stand below 5%, while the second debate will feature candidates whose popularity based on the same opinion polls stands above 5%. And of course, the 4 deputy presidential candidates, we have the Agano Party represented by Ruth Musheru. We also have the Roots Party, where we'll have Justina Wamai, as well as the Azimio One Kenya coalition, which will be represented by Martha Wangari Karua, and last but not least, the Kenya Kwanza coalition with Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua.
And of course, my name is Ken Mijungu from KTN TV. Before I introduce the guest, I had to introduce myself. All right, so let's talk about Ruth Musheru Mutua. She is from the Agano Party. She's the presidential running mate, deputizing Mwaure Wahiga. She was nominated last month. That's on the 11th of June. And of course, little was known about her before that nomination on the 11th of June. However, she has 15 years of experience in the private sector. And of course, their rallying call is about corruption. They want to fight corruption if they are elected into office in about 20 days. And she's a communication management and administration specialist. Now, first time in politics, this lady is going to be on the podium tonight. And she's the mother of 2 girls. Also, we have Justina Wamai, Roots Party presidential running mate. Now, she is deputizing Professor George Wajakoya. She is a youth advocate, a businesswoman, and she is a purchasing and logistics specialist. She is with us tonight and vast career in the private sector. She was a little known before this. However, she was thrust to the limelight. She was born right behind here in Kibra. Not her first time in politics, because I will tell you this, she tried in Mavoko and failed, and also tried to work for the government. She applied to be a permanent secretary, you know that? Mm-hmm. And of course, she was picked by Wajakoya through a rigorous interview. Now we'll be telling you about the other 2 who will be appearing in the second debate.
Absolutely, and Ruth Musheru and Justina Wamai will make up the first debate tonight. These 2 candidates will show Kenyans how their parties plan to tackle major issues like the state of the economy and corruption as well. Recent data from the Treasury there showing Kenya's GDP standing at about 12.6 trillion shillings. Kenya's GDP last year again growing at about 7.5%. A good recovery and a strong recovery following the COVID-19 pandemic that threw global economies in disarray. However, Kenya's fiscal deficit continues to grow, growing at about 7.5% of the GDP from 2017-2018 to about 8.2% Now, in 2020-2021, a higher fiscal deficit there, of course, means higher borrowing for the country. So how will these parties tackle these very important issues?
Economy is a big topic tonight. And of course, with 22 million of you going to the ballot, it's important that you know what they stand for. I mean, Kenya is the biggest economy in this region. So whoever is at the top matters most for not only the East Africa region, but beyond. And as Michelle mentioned earlier, we're not alone in this. It's a joint broadcast by all the media houses. It's being streamed live online. It's also not television station and most of the radio station. Now, on the other side, my colleague Nimrod Tabu is also standing by. And Nimrod, perhaps a lowdown on what you know about these candidates and what they present tonight right here at Kwea. Nimrod?
Asante sana Ken, kama ulivyosema milioni 22 ya wapiga kura na asilimia ndogo tu imepata fursa kualikwa kama wageni kuja hapa kuweza kusikiza mdahalo huu moja kwa moja kutoka chuo kikuu cha Catholic University Eastern Africa. Bila shaka umeniambia nimzungumzie mmoja wa wagombea hao. Nataka nimzungumzie Ruth Musheru Mutua ambaye kufikia Juni mapema mwezi huu aliweza kuteuliwa kuwa naibu mgombea mwenza wa David Waihiga Mwaure kuweza kushikilia tiketi wakiwa pamoja ya Agano. Basi katika hotuba yake moja kwa moja, sio wengi walikuwa wakimfahamu, lakini punde tu kutoka siku hizo na siku ambazo zimefuatia ameweza kuwa ni mtu mwenye kutambulika fursa akizipata. Anazungumzia masuala ambayo wanataka katika chama cha Agano kuweza kukabiliana na masuala ya ufisadi. Vile vile amesema ikiwa atachaguliwa kuwa mgombea mwenza katika tikiti ya Agano, vile vile atakuwa ni mwenye kutetea maslahi ya kina mama, wanawake na wasichana. Isitoshe, pia atatetea jamii ambazo zimekuwa zikitelekezwa na serikali tofauti hapa nchini. Lakini si mengi yanayofahamika kumhusu, kwani hajakuwa katika safu ya siasa ama uongozi katika umma ama masuala ya kisiasa. Isipokuwa tu kwamba tunafahamu ameweza kushiriki kazi katika kampuni tofauti. Kama ulivyosema, aliweza kusomea shahada na kupata shahada ya masuala ya mawasiliano. Kwa hivyo ni mzuri kwa kuzungumza masuala ya mawasiliano. Lakini pia nieleze kwa kifupi kwamba alisomea shule ya upili ya State House Girls hapa Nairobi na hatimaye kuenda katika shule ya upili ya Visa Oshwal kabla ya kuingia katika chuo kikuu cha Nairobi na kupata shahada ya masuala ya mawasiliano. Lakini mtazamaji, mimi nafahamika kama Nimrod Tabu kutoka runinga Citizen, lakini hii leo siko peke yangu katika zulia hili jekundu.
Na mtazamaji, bila shaka ukiniita Busara na Aman nitaitika, na anatoka runinga ya K24 TV. Na bila shaka ni shukrani za dhati kuona kwamba umetenga muda wako na kujiunga nasi katika mchaka wa mdahalo wa manaibu ama wagombea wenza wa rais hii leo hapa katika chuo kikuu cha Katoliki cha Afrika Mashariki. Na bila shaka mwenzangu Mijungu tayari amezungumza mawili matatu kuhusiana na mgombea mwenza wa rais ambaye ni Justina Wamai. Lakini kwanza Tabu jamani, mazingira yapo vipi? Mandhari yako vipi ndani ya chuo hiki?
Ama kwa kweli yanapendeza, usalama umeimarishwa, wageni walioruhusiwa kufika ni wale waliopata mwaliko peke yake. Kwa hivyo kwa wale ni wafuasi tunawasihi watazame pale walipo, aidha kwenye runinga, katika mitandao na kadhalika.
Naam, bila shaka kabla sijazungumza mengi, kukumbusha tu mtazamaji upote pale ulipo, ukitaka kuzungumza nasi, ukitaka kutuma maoni au hata mapendekezo, basi tumba kupitia ujumbe mfupi. Nambari ni 22843. Nambari ni 22843. Lakini mtazamaji, kumbuka kwamba mdahalo huu unakuja wakati ambapo taifa linakumbana na gharama ya juu ya maisha. Na muda mfupi kabla ya mdahalo huu kufanyika jamani, utafiti ulifanyika na Wakenya wengi wangependa usiku wa leo wagombea wenza ambao watakuwa hapa waangazie masuala kadhaa, ikiwemo kupanda kwa gharama ya maisha, vile vile swala la ufisadi, vile vile swala la ukosefu wa ajira miongoni mwa vijana na hata huduma mbovu za afya. Kwa hivyo letu ni jicho kuona kwamba je, wagombea hao wenza watakuwa na yepi ya kusema kuhusiana na masuala hayo katika sekta hizo mbalimbali. Lakini nikirejelea mada yangu na muangazia Justina Wamai, na tayari mwenzangu Ken Mijungu ashangazia safari yake, alikolelewa, alikozaliwa, alikosoma. Kwa hivyo mimi nitaangazia tu zile sera ambazo wako nazo ndani ya chama cha Roots. Bila shaka ni sera ambazo kidogo si za kawaida. Wanasiasa unajua tunajua sera zao, lakini kidogo kina Roots Party wanakuja wanatuambia kwamba wataanza biashara ama ukulima wa nyoka. Naam, kando na hayo wanasema watawanyonga wafisadi. Kama wewe ni mfisadi basi utanyongwa. Kando na hayo wanataka kufanya nini? Kuidhinisha utumizi wa bangi. Na mengi atakuwa anasema mwenyewe katika mdahalo wa leo, na kuwashawishi ama kukushawishi wewe Mkenya popote pale ulipo uweze kumchagua iwapo ataweza kufanikiwa basi kushinda uchaguzi huu wa Agosti 9 ambao unakuja baada ya siku kadhaa tu za kuhesabu.
Na usisahau busara, azimio lao la kutaka kuahirisha katiba kwa muda wa miezi 6 ili kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba mambo yanakuwa laini. Kwa hivyo ni maswala ambayo bila shaka wamepangiwa maswali ambayo pengine yatatusaidia kuweza kuwafahamu zaidi, kuelewa fursa zao, kuelewa zaidi pia manifesto zao, na pia ikiwa kama ulivyosema wana ushawishi aina gani. Ikikumbuka kwamba mdahalo huu umeandaliwa kwa sababu wao wako katika ile nafasi ambao bado hawajaweza kuwa na ushawishi mkubwa. Wana 5% tu ya pengine wale watu ambao wameweza kuwafuatilia au hata chini. Kwa hivyo ndio nafasi nzuri nafikiri kwa wao kuweza kujieleza na kushawishi wananchi ambao mpaka kufikia sasa pengine hawajafanya maamuzi ni chama gani ambapo pengine wataegemea.
Na pengine Nimrod, mdahalo huu si wa kawaida, manake kidogo idadi ya wanawake ni kubwa zaidi ikilinganishwa na wanaume, na si jambo la kawaida.
Bila shaka. Kwa hivyo tunatazamia mengi tu katika mdahalo huu wa kwanza, lakini kabla ya kuingia kwenye mdahalo wenyewe kirasmi, tunaye mwenzetu Trevor Ombija, hajaketi pembeni sana, yuko karibu nasi. Trevor.
Asante sana Nimrod Tabu na Busara Nama, na hapo awali Ken Mijungu na Michelle Ngele. Mdahalo mchaka mdahalo unaanza hapa. Basi Kiswahili imeishia hapo. I'm seated here with a panel of 5. My name is Trevor Ombija from Citizen TV and Ramogi TV. I'm here with a panel of 5, 4 of them formidable women, to make heads and tails of this conversation, which really is a representation of the deputy presidential debate that is happening live right here from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. Let me start by introducing my guest. From my farthest left, Professor Gituro Wanaina is here, lecturer and also agricultural economics expert. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you, Trevor.
Nerima Wako is also here, executive director, Siasa Place. Asante sana for making time.
Thank you.
Dr. Nancy Baraza is here, former deputy chief justice. Thank you so much for making time. And on my right, Asaska Labarakwe, public policy expert. Thank you so much for making time. And Wanjiru Gikonyo, executive director, TISA, which is the Institute of Social Accountability. You had the front row on this discussion during the gubernatorial debate, and that's where I want to start, Wanjiru. What are the key issues you expect the deputy presidential candidates to speak about today?
Well, obviously, thank you so much, Trevor. Pleasure to be here with this illustrious panel, and great to see you, Professor Gedure. We expect to hear, of course, they're going to talk about their manifestos.
Yeah.
They're going to put forward the economic agenda. They're going to try and sell themselves, resell themselves to their base, but also try and reach out to the undecided. So we expect the parties to really resonate with Kenyans.
Yeah.
Right now, cost of living is a big issue. The issues around cost of living have to do with the policies of the Jubilee administration.
Yeah.
So, of course, there are contradictions immediately, and a lot of people are confused, wondering, if you look at Azimio, the president is in Azimio. Yet the issues that are facing Kenyans have to do with the Jubilee Party. If you look at the other side, again, you're looking at the Jubilee Party. So there are contradictions. And the challenge with the candidates, of course, is to sell their agenda and to cut through these contradictions. We also expect to hear issues about integrity, issues about leadership, because a lot of the present problems have to do with state capture, have to do with corruption.
Okay.
Our finding in civil society, within 3 years of the administration being in power, there were 19 mega corruption scandals. It was unseen. The amount of looting and the levels of looting have never been seen before. So we want to get some reality checks and hopefully more truth than propaganda to enable Kenyans make good decisions.
Asaska, what are the key issues you want the deputy presidential candidates to speak about as a Kenyan living here?
Thank you, Trevor. One of the common things that cuts across all the 4 manifestos is the Kenyan economy. And it's just not some topic that is interesting to the politicians. It's also interesting to our 22 million voters in Kenya. And why is Kenyan economy coming into the picture at this time and at this period in time? One, it's clear that our democracy space is growing. And number 2, it's also due to recent development. One is a COVID pandemic, which has led to high cost of living, high cost of fuel, there's high inflation. It's currently at 7.9%, even way above the bridge set by the CBK. And high public debt and runaway corruption. So definitely, if we look at all the four manifestos, you'll realize that there are some impressive commitments cutting across. If you look at the Roots Party, there's this controversial legalization of cannabis. And also, you'll see that the Roots Party is looking outward, not inward.
All right. We'll get into those discussions in just a bit, but let me bring in Dr. Baraza on this. Dr. Baraza, what do you expect these candidates to discuss tonight that is of utmost importance?
I think I expect them not to come here and electioneer, but talk about real issues. And these real issues include the high cost of living. I think they should be able to tell us and tell Kenyans what they are going to do about the runaway cost of living. Unemployment is a major issue. I come from the academia. We are churning out youth from the universities. They are coming out of colleges and they are going nowhere. They have no jobs. And we don't want a future of all our youth jobless. So I expect that they address that issue and in a very, very serious manner. Issues of health. I hear money being allocated to the Ministry of Health, but I don't think Kenyans are getting the services optimally. So I would want to hear how they intend to do this, but of utmost importance is the issue of integrity, as Wanjiru has said, and corruption. Corruption, which is a cancer, it is killing us, it is killing this country. I want them to address, or I expect them to address the issue of corruption. And Kenyans are expecting that they get candid responses on how they intend to tackle corruption.
All right. Nerima, as a representative of the youth, what is of utmost importance to you?
Hi, Trevor. I think everything has already been said by my co-panelists, and I agree with them completely. The fact that opportunities is going to be very high on the agenda, and how you're going to create those opportunities for young people, but not opportunities where you say we're providing a fund. We're very well aware that not all young people want to start enterprises and businesses. Opportunities within agriculture, food security. We are still undergoing a drought, so taking care of the population that is not normally seen as being Kenyan. They're second-class citizens, and that's how they feel, and it's an issue in our country. A lot of youth are in criminal gangs, talking about Mombasa County and even the northern frontier counties as well, and we tend to ignore these communities because a lot of times when we talked about the division of revenue, that's where a huge chunk of the debate came out from, where counties are concerned about collection of resources. So even when we talk about opportunities, we need to be talking about debt. Our debt is just too high, and it's going to fall on the youth to pay that debt. And how are they going to collect resources for that debt? Because as much as we talk about corruption, we need to do something about it. It just definitely needs to reduce. This is also a political season where too much resources has been used in campaigns. My friends, too much. I think it's the highest I've ever seen, ever. And I'm not old, but it's a lot. Looking at, statistics. And so that means that whoever is coming into power has to figure out, one, to recuperate. Number two, they're going to have officials or frontiers who are within parliament who their first thing will be thinking, how I'm going to recuperate financially. And then number three, it's going to be about how we're going to be able to sustain ourselves, even when we talk about the high cost of living and the impact that COVID has made. So I would say opportunities, looking at corruption, our debt and resources, how are we going to be able to manage them? Inclusivity, how are we going to also engage communities that are not normally seen as people who are at the forefront of these conversations that are normally overtaken by the majority.
All right. Prof, I'll come to you to get your expectations in just a bit, but let's cross over to Busara Naman, who's standing by the registration center to tell us what's going on. Busara, kwako Busara.
Na mtazamaji, kwa sasa nipo katika upande mwingine wa Chuo Kikuu cha Katoliki cha Afrika Mashariki, na bila shaka hapa ndipo unapoingia pa kwanza kabla hujafika kwenye jumba kuu ambapo mdahalo unafanyika. Na bila shaka sehemu hii ni sehemu ambapo usajili unafanyika. Na je, kwa nini usajili huu unafanyika? Kuna umuhimu gani? Basi nitakuwa naungana na mkuu wa usajili katika eneo hili ambaye ni Michael Duya, atujuze mengi zaidi kuhusiana na mchakato mzima. Karibia hapa kidogo. Hujambo na pengine siku yako inaendelea vipi?
Si jambo, siku yangu iko salama.
Na moja kwa moja labda tutuelezee kwa nini Mkenya yoyote ambaye anaingia katika chuo hiki hivi sasa katika mdahalo, je, kwa nini anahitaji kujisajili?
Watu wanakuja kwa sababu ya security reason, tunawasajili kwa sababu ya security. Kila wakati wakija, tunafaa kujua ni nani anakuja ku attend hii debate. So pale kwa online tulikuwa na form zenye tulikuwa make for attendees. So wakisha do their registration, tunajua kwamba wanakuja ku attend debate for a specific reason. Tulikuwa tunauliza kwa nini wanakuja ku attend the debate. So inatusaidia pia ku enhance security na kujua ni kina nani wameattend hii debate. Yes.
Na je, ni vitu gani ambavyo vipo katika hiyo mchakato wa online ambao unafuatilia? Ni mambo gani ambayo yapo ambayo mtu anapaswa kujaza?
Pale online tunaweza kujaza bio details. The same time tunajaza vitu kama photo. Lazima upload photo yako ili tujue wewe ni nani. Tukiangalia na pia tunakuangalia, tunajua kumbe ni wewe ndio umekuja na pia umesajiliwa the correct way. Tunachukua pia kategori yako. Tunajua kama wewe ni delegate tunakuja ama wewe ni crew. Crew tunafanyia kitu inaitwa accreditation pia. So that tujue ukikuja unakuja under which media house na unakuja kufanya nini katika hii debate. Yes.
Kwa hivyo inamaanisha kwamba wote waliokuja hapa ni waalikwa ambao tayari walijisajili awali.
Yes.
Naam.
Yes, ukikuja ni lazima ukuli alikwa. Kuna list ya wale tulikuwa tumewatumia invitation. So wakishahakikisha kwamba ni the correct people wanakuja, ndipo tunaweza wapatia sasa entry into the event.
Naam, shukrani sana Michael Duya. Bila shaka mtazamaji, huyo ndo mkuu wa kitengo cha usajili katika hafla nzima ya mdahalo huu wa wagombea urais. Na mtazamaji, kufikia hapo narudisha upande mwingine wa studio.
Asante sana Busara Naman. Just for clarity purposes, this broadcast is coming to you live from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. Only those who are invited prior will be allowed into the vicinity. But we're not leaving you out. Online, you can always send us your views on presidential debates, KE 2022 as the hashtag, and the deputy presidential debates, KE 2022. Also, you can send in an SMS with your name and where you're texting us from to 22843 to weigh into the entire discussion. We'll sample some of views during this broadcast that is being aired across all media platforms. Professor, I was coming to you in terms of your expectations for this.
Before you went to the commercial break.
Yeah. I was just trying to clarify to the people how the registration is working out there, so that they don't walk in here. But what are your expectations for this debate, Prof?
Yeah, thanks. And again, I think I appreciate being in the company of these heavyweights of ladies here. I think it's the same we expect in the debates. Yeah. There'll be only one gentleman, I suppose.
Yes.
And 3 ladies. I think the first thing is for them to appreciate and realize the position they are holding. You are holding the second person entrusted with the responsibilities by Kenyans. And therefore what we expect you is to talk at that level. In the sense that, how am I going to look at a country like Kenya and place it where it's supposed to be in the world, in Africa? Could be the first economy in Africa, if not the second, you know.
Yeah.
I expect that from them. And as my sister talked about here, perhaps it's not a politicking. This is a very different discussion, because here they will be asked questions. When they get to the rural areas, nobody asks them a question. You are talking to the people.
Yeah.
Here we are debating. And therefore I would like them to go beyond what we are promising Kenyans.
Yeah.
Hope is not a strategy and will never be a strategy. Tell us, for example, we are going to have free education from ECD to the university. How? Anybody can say that.
Yeah.
Even the mad person in the street. But how are we going to do it? So what I expect, and I think the panelists here have brought the issues here.
Yeah.
If we look at the public debt, if we look at the fuel prices, how are we going to deal with it? That is something I would expect from them.
Yeah.
A very clear strategy. In fact, you move from hope to a strategy. And from a strategy, you have the implementation.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really expecting of them.
Okay.
Because the moment you tell the Kenyans, we have issues of food.
Yeah.
What makes us go back? Farming, agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
What makes agriculture tick? Water.
Yeah.
What is my plan to deal with harvesting water?
Okay.
What equals manufacturers? Energy. how are we going to deal with the energy?
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that are going. And I think Ebre, that brought the drought, the public debt, post-COVID, the war in Ukraine. And of course, I think I would not like to to say like Wanjiru there. I know Wanjiru hits below the belt at the times he has opportunity. And I think everybody has. We are looking for strong leadership.
Yeah.
A leadership which is no-nonsense, in the sense that it will not allow things like some transaction cost.
Yeah.
That's what we are looking for.
All right. And Dr. Baraza, Professor Giture is raising a very interesting aspect on position. The position they serve as the deputy president of the nation, the incoming one. The constitution itself, Article 147(2), is not even explicit on the roles of a deputy president. It simply just says he or she will deputize the president and execute functions by the constitution and assigned by the president. Is that where the problem is really? Did we err in passing it like that without clearing it?
I was part of the drafting of that constitution, and I think there was no erring, and I don't think there is a problem there. I think it is clear once you are a deputy, I think the constitution expects you to be a principal assistant to the president. And the president assigns you work. And I don't see a president who would fail to assign work. I don't think from the framers or the position of the framers of the Constitution there was a problem. The problem is being created in the office itself, in the presidency itself, probably people not wanting to appreciate the position that the Constitution gives them.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a problem there.
But as a person who took part in the drafting of it all, what happens if a president decides not to assign the deputy the duties?
The deputy decides to take the president.
Yeah, or the deputy decides to ignore what has been assigned. Did you look at that possibility?
I think the expectation was that we were not going to have that kind of friction.
Okay.
That for a presidency to run smoothly, there is a reason why the Constitution put there a principal assistant called a deputy president. And he would be assigned work.
Yeah.
And then there is a reason why the Constitution created a deputy president and called him a principal assistant of the president. So if this principal assistant wants to outsmart the principal himself, I think now that is the problem of the persons holding those posts.
Okay.
Yes.
Wanjiru, was there a mistake there in the drafting of Article 147 that did not explicitly give the roles of what a deputy president should do?
Well, I think if you look at the practice the world over, the deputy president deputizes the president on the assumption that ideologically they are together committed to the implementation of the party manifesto. That is the assumption. There are some things you can't legislate. And in fact, that is one of them. You cannot legislate that once you ascend to a position, you must abide to the spirit and the law. You can maybe take somebody to court when they violate the law, but we are struggling with the spirit. And I think that's what we are talking about here. This is why we say we are also struggling with the issue of leadership and integrity. Absolutely. And you can see the big back and forth we are having between the IEBC, the EACC, and the court system. Because if somebody has been convicted, another person actually has even been, somebody's been charged or convicted or impeached and put themselves forward for a leadership position, and a party then proceeds to give them the ticket and they win the nomination. That is in violation of the spirit of the Constitution. The law was diluted, unfortunately, because we are working in a political context.
Yeah.
So, Trevor, when we are talking about our expectations as citizens, we have to acknowledge that our political system has been frustrating the aspirations of Kenyans for the interest of our political elite. And one of those is on leadership and integrity. The other is on accountability of public resources. The other one is on, will these parties implement the lofty proposals they have put in their manifestos? Because if you look at the manifestos, we have very good promises. Based looking at the economy, and there's differences between the manifestos, but there's an agreement that we must focus on agriculture. We must focus on the informal sector. We must create wealth. We must open up these value chains and democratize our economic system. These are great and lofty ideals, and I think it's a big win in that citizens have been heard. But in Kenya, our problem comes at implementation stage. We have a political elite, we have a government administration that really roundly does not implement, subverts the law, avoids the law, evades the law. So that is the big question, and we want to hear what are the tangible proposals we have for the implementation of that. But also, I think we have to look at track record. Professor says that I'm hitting below the belt, but track record is how do you measure somebody when when you're assessing somebody for an employment position. You look at their ideas, you look at their education, you also look at their track record. What were you doing before? And we're not saying we are witch hunting or moralizing. We're just saying, have you been consistent in terms of your ideological position, in terms of how you've conducted yourself in public?
Asaska, I'll come to you. I see you're itching to respond, but I want to show you what's going on right now. The registration is happening as we speak. The auditorium will be full to capacity, 600 strong. All of them invited guests. It's happening right now. If you're prior invited to this conversation, then you're being cleared. There's a tight security check at the corner. The chaperones are there waiting to pick each and every person who they are assigned to. You can see them lining up there. As soon as the candidates come in for debate 1, we will usher you straight to the auditorium when the conversation will begin at around 5:30. Justina Wamai for the Roots Party is expected here anytime from now. Ruth Mutua of Agano Party is also expected here anytime from now. The moderators will be Francis Gashuri and Zubeida Kome. As soon as that kicks off, we will take you there. But Saska, I was coming to you on this. Is it true what Wanjiru is saying, that it's the political system that frustrates the aspirations of Kenyans?
Culture.
Yeah.
Not the system,
the
culture.
Political culture.
Trevor, I totally agree with Wanjiru here. And I don't know if politicians forget that Kenyans do read their manifestos. They do scrutinize it to ensure that it does reflect our needs and our aspirations as a country. I think there is that missing link. Because we have beautiful manifestos with lofty promises, as Wanjiru has alluded to. But the thing is, there is no clear-cut implementation roadmaps on how best all these promises and commitments will be executed at the end. And that's what we're missing in this country. It's 6 years since independence. And as much as we have beautiful policies in place, beautiful policy frameworks and regulations, we still fail at implementation. And it's time for us to ask ourselves, why is this so? Why does this keep happening?
Prof, do you agree with that? It's only about implementation rather than the policies we have. Do we have enough laws?
And this thing comes in my mind very clearly. I think when Raila was the deputy president or something like that, I remember him Prime Minister. I remember him in a safari park, and he emphasized, he did actually say in my presentation in 3 words: implementation, implementation, implementation. And I hope we can do that. It's not just the manifesto, even our strategies. I'll give you an example. Kigali Stock Exchange, actually brought from here. The CBC, there are people who have run away with it. And it's something perhaps, as we look at all this, I think it's also really to see them, all these things they're saying, what is the foundation? And one of the foundation is education. And I think Dr. Baraza has pointed about here. And I think it's very important to distinguish here the youth and workers.
Prof, hold the thought on the youth in just a bit, because one of the candidates has already arrived. That is Ruth Mutua of the Agano Party, and she's standing by there with Michelle Ngele. Let's find out how she's feeling just ahead of the debate. Michelle?
Right, Ruth Musheru, she's the first candidate to make it for the debate here, which is about to begin at 5:30 this afternoon. Trevor, good to see you today. You are the first of 2 candidates in the first debate. Are you ready?
I'm very ready, Kenyans. I am here to bring our agenda and to give you the view and what manifesto we have as the Gano Party. We are ready and a privilege. Thank you for giving us this chance in the Media Council.
It is a third deputy presidential debate. What are your expectations within those 90 minutes?
To air the manifesto, to air what the Kenyans want to hear from us, what we are coming to bring in, yes, as the Badilisha team.
What do you expect from your debater, Justina Wamai?
She will come and bring forth what she has for the Kenyans. Right. We can debate from that point.
Thank you. That is Ruth Musheru. She is the first candidate to make it for the deputy presidential debates here at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. Trevor, over to you.
Thank you, Michelle. And Prof, you're finishing your thoughts on the issue of
every time I'm coming, there's a commercial break is coming in.
This is happening in real time.
I'm trying to bring a nexus, which I think Dr. Barasa brought very strongly.
Yeah.
And Wak also brought it, the issue of employment. And where I come from, our young people are not really looking for employment. They are looking for opportunity to create employment.
Yeah.
And that is important. And I link that, I step back and link that to CBC, the curriculum-based...
competency-based curriculum.
Competence-based curriculum.
Yeah.
And what do I see the candidate linking that to what it translates to create opportunities for young people to create employment?
Yeah.
And there are people in this town, I have some Marotom Nochoja around me, and I've mentioned him, Kiprono, Kitoni. I did happen to have teach him campus, and he said, by then I'm not going to be employed, but I'm going to create employment. That gentleman today has created employment. That's the kind of youth we are looking.
Okay.
But how do the deputy president, let's say they hold very high position, link that to what happens in the classroom? Right now, there are issues. When you look at the the curriculum we have adopted, very expensive. Curriculum drives everything, but we need to look at in that perspective. But the leadership, Wanjiru, I totally agree with you. I had an opportunity to work in government, and so there are certain terms you use. I remember one time talking with the public service. You don't say they have no skills.
Yeah.
You say they have limited skills.
Yeah.
So I could be talking about leadership, but he is talking the issue of prudent utilization of the taxes we are paying. That's a big hole. Somebody has to look at that. Because today you go excise duty 16%. Left and right we are being taxed.
Yeah.
And we Kenyans really we like to pay taxes, but we must see what the taxes are doing.
Okay.
So I've already have that sting. I think I wish the candidates who are coming, please go beyond your manifesto. We have led them. But tell the Kenyans, if I'm going to do this, how are we going to do it?
Yeah.
That's what we would expect from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Nerima on this. And Nerima, let's now talk about the cost of living and the economy. So, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, inflation has actually reached a 5-year high of 7.9%. Public debt is at 8.5 trillion. So, Azimio is talking about agriculture, livestock farming, and blue economy that will then grow the agriculture sector by 30% of the GDP. Is that where the solution lies as a young person, considering that the average age of a farmer today is 70?
Yes. The average age of a farmer is old because, again...
You like that word, old.
He's,
because she's young.
He's mature.
That's a better word. Mature.
Wise, I don't know. There are some very wise young people. But I would say that it's also because of how we view agriculture.
Yeah.
You know, even when we look at the vocational training institutes, a lot of times even when people apply or youth apply to go there, it's because it's the last resort. I wasn't able to go into a higher formal institution, or my parents can't afford it. So it's not a place where youth are saying, I am very passionate about doing this because I feel it's an opportunity for me. So we have to change the way we view agriculture and also see that agriculture can also produce opportunity for young people.
Okay.
Once youth see that transition, you will not even need to advertise for youth to enter agriculture. They will come on their own.
Okay.
And also, I agree on Prof's point in terms of youth looking for opportunity. But this country is not very conducive toward small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and young entrepreneurs. It is a struggle. The number of youth who even struggle with, say, the paperwork required and the costs of it, or the taxes to even have that business, it clamps your company before it can even continue to exist. And a lot of them do not last more than 3 years. After 3 years, they are done and dusted. And so if we could focus on, sure, blue economy, agriculture, because a lot of countries are looking internally in terms of specialization, but we also have to remember that this administration was focusing on housing. We've talked about the high cost of living, and one of them is housing. Youth right now, talking about land, owning land, buying a house, building a house is not even part of conversation right now. We cannot. You cannot afford it. But with this administration, they talked about housing. What happened to that? They managed to do some, but not as many as we anticipated beginning with their term 10 years ago. And number two, they talked about manufacturing. What happened to that? The president had a whole idea of having civil servants wearing Kenyan-owned, Kenyan-made fabric on particular days, which is Friday.
Kenya, build Kenya.
Yes. But then what has happened with that? Even when we talk about implementation, the culture to want to support Kenyan-owned businesses is still far behind. And when you even see youth who are in agriculture, a lot of them complain about how there are certain policies that prop up. All of a sudden you need a license to start bee farming. All of a sudden you need a license to grow grass to be able to feed your cows. All of a sudden it's cheaper to grow onions in Tanzania, and I get my eggs from Uganda. And so we have to look at how can we improve the business environment for young people. It will be important because we're looking at integration. We haven't talked about the free trade, Africa Free Trade Area that is now in place, and youth being able to see opportunities in areas like Rwanda, Kigali, that we've talked about, and the fact that now that exchange will come into place, and it will also change the conversation on currency. And how we trade and what we're trading. Okay.
And Dr. Baraza, in hindsight, what is missing when it comes to youth empowerment initiatives? Because some of them have been there, but they've collapsed on their faces. Or is it that the uptake has not been there? In your view, what is missing when it comes to youth empowerment?
I think what is missing is seriousness in following those programs through, in implementation. I know there are programs, there are funds. We hear of funds, youth funds, but I think implementation is not good. Nerima has touched on a very important issue. Youth try to do things, to farm, for example, or to rear chicken, for example, but they have no market. And the reason is we, the powerful, occupy that space. Okay? We deprive them of market. They cannot afford inputs because they are too expensive. And so that leaves the powerful, the rich, to do the business that the youth could engage in. So I think we strangle them along the road. Along the way. And so we just don't enable them to succeed.
It's the enabling environment that's not there.
The enabling environment is not there.
Okay. Asaska, we've been speaking about the Azimio manifesto of agriculture, but Kenya Kwanza, on the other hand, also is pledging to invest 500 billion over the next 5 years in the smallholder agriculture and informal sector. Will the proposed agricultural initiatives guarantee food security to all Kenyans?
Thank you, Trevor. Definitely, as we all know, cultural sector plays a big role, is a key driver to Kenya's economy. And in 2021 alone, it contributed approximately 22.4% towards Kenya's GDP. Definitely, agriculture is a sector that enhances productivity and thus cannot just be wished away. And in that case, as you've seen in the Kenya Kwanza financial commitment towards agriculture, they've set aside, I think, about 250 billion Kenya shillings within the financial year of 2023 to 2027. And definitely, if it's implemented better, if a farm commitment is in place, I think agriculture can contribute sustainable development agenda by increasing food security, alleviating poverty, and even employment creation. And we lack that in a big way. Because the sector alone, as you know, employs about 40% of our total population. So that's a huge chunk.
Wanjiru, is that the direction to take? Agriculture? Is that where we should focus on?
Well, yes. And, you know, in our advocacy, looking at the crisis of public debt, that really goes, even before we entered into the COVID era, our economy was on a very weak footing because of imprudent choices, imprudent development choices. This large infrastructure development, eating up all the money, financed by costly debt, with corruption written in there, you know, conflict of interest, real mismanagement of the economy by the Jubilee administration. Because of that, we are in this economic crisis. But even then, if you listen to the Parliamentary Budget Office, they were looking at the economy and saying majority of people are employed in the agricultural sector, over 50% of Kenyans. This, even during COVID, it was the steadiest contributor to our GDP, because you're talking about the backbone of our economy. Yet, our investments are in places where people aren't employed, where, you know, the large infrastructure employs very few people. So yes, it has to be agriculture. And this is why I'm saying that there are wins. Even before we start the debates, before we go to the election, there are wins. The parties have listened. They have prioritized agriculture, because both parties have prioritized agriculture. They have prioritized the informal sector. Both sides have recognized, you know, we've had numerous policies on the role of the informal sector, the importance of the informal sector, but governments keep ignoring them. They have prioritized manufacturing and are linking manufacturing to agro-processing, which is to the agricultural sector, to the informal sector. So they are, you know, committing to make those linkages. So the question becomes, that's why we were saying implementation. Can we trust the political parties, after they have wooed us with their promises, that when they sit in the seats of power, they will do what they have said, that they will listen to the citizens, they will be accountable to the citizens? Do they show in their manifesto the democratic space, civic space, the social accountability back to the citizens, the civic education to empower citizens to be very engaged, and answerability to the citizens? Do they show the public sector transformation to transform from the culture of impunity to the culture of compliance? Do they have the intergovernmental relations? We have seen the fights between county and national government and the Jubilee that has really destroyed, almost destroyed the health sector. So are they speaking to the culture change that we need and the accountability that we need to implement these promises?
Asaska, you wanted to jump in?
Yes, Trevor, let's not forget that African countries, including Kenya, have international commitments in the agricultural sector. And if you remember in the 2009 Maputo Declaration, most of these countries have committed to give 10% of the national budget towards agriculture. And for many, 20 years down the line, Kenya has not been able to hit that target. It's always around maybe 3.5%. So it's a shame that we're not really prioritizing an industry that enhances our productivity and drives our economy.
You asked the issue of agriculture.
Yes, Prof. And that's right down your alley.
It's like
as an agricultural economist
of my life.
Yes.
I think there's a simple reason why we should concentrate on agriculture. You had lunch. You have supper. You have... It's there. We demand it. That's the bottom line. But I think the question you asked, and I think panelists, maybe something we need to look at. What do we need to do? Because we all know, and I'm always baffled. We know, but we are doing nothing about it. One, I think it's important to reflect back in terms of the skills we provide for the youth in the education system. And deliberately will be geared. How can a country like Ukraine, probably in one of our counties, be supplying grains to the world? And they have only 6 months in a year to grow those grains. We have 12 months. My mind goes back to a Bogo farm. I have some you can Bukula. Yeah, the one we have in Kiambu here called Waruyu Farm. The extension farmers. And I can tell you, Trevor, if an extension person has come to the farm, the maize was very different from the other farm. These are the kind of things we actually want to bring back. I like her point.
Yeah.
It's actually almost, I don't know, it's almost treason opening something in this country. The way you go through. You give up.
Yeah.
And I think it's something we are looking for ease of doing business. I give the example. When we used to get our DL, driving license, we used to queue.
Yeah.
And to get it, you give 1,000. Right now, you can get through your phone. This is the kind of thing when you get kids into aid. And the concept in a country, Trevor, which cannot feed their people, is headed for disaster.
Yeah.
Look at US. Look at in the country. What they do, they make sure that there's enough for their people. I think that's something we need to reflect back. And we should, and I like you're using the free trade aid in Africa, we should be the one exporting grains out there.
Yeah.
Not exporting to us. So I think it's something we must get that. I like the word she has used, mature.
Yeah.
We are exiting that in terms of even energy. How do we get back? And we parents, I think we have a problem.
And Professor, you know, you're the one who said that every single time you're talking, something is always happening. Let me bring to your attention that the candidate Justina Wamai for the Roots Party has just arrived at the vicinity. She's ready to do the debate one, and Ken Mijungu is standing by with her in just a bit. Let's find out how she's feeling. And they have actually given a very interesting proposal, Prof, and I'll come to that in just a bit, on what they want to do to deal with the economy. They're talking about legalizing cannabis. But Ken, over to you first. How is she feeling?
And thank you, Trevor. And of course, Jacinta Wamai is here with us. She is the second candidate tonight for the first debate. How are you feeling now that you're here finally?
I'm excited. Do you know I'm here to destigmatize our manifesto? So I'm energized and I'm psyched up.
You ready for this? What did you do ahead of the debate?
I prepared accordingly. You know, Kenyans are not bright, so I need to come off smart.
So we're looking forward to the debate and all the best. Asante sana. Asante. All right, back to you, Trevor.
Thank you, Ken. Prof, you're finishing your thoughts on this.
Finish.
Yeah.
I like this commercial break when it just comes to me. So I think that's something, the point I was making here, we must do whatever it takes to ensure we are food secure.
Okay.
Had the opportunity to talk to the military people. If we depend on our eggs from Uganda and there's war, they'll just stop the food. They don't even have to use a tank.
Yeah.
They'll come over.
Okay.
And I think that's something we need really to look at in terms of how do we make our country secure.
Okay.
And if there's something I had to do, one thing, agriculture.
Yeah.
It defeats to manufacturing.
Yeah. But
It
there's a
defeats
twist. There's now a twist to this entire agriculture issue. We've talked about Kenya Kwanza manifesto and Azimio manifesto. The Roots Party is talking about legalizing cannabis. Is
that's
that
the point
a
I was
viable
going
proposal?
to. I hear you, Trevor, but let me ask you. And I think we need to be more serious. And I think the presidential candidate is already visiting some farms in the U.S. of where they plant. How much of GDP does that crop bring to those economies, even where they do it? Very little.
Yeah.
Then the second thing is, do we feed on that thing? There are farms here in Naivasha planting flowers. We never eat on those flowers. The most people Kenya will cash your call with their kids are in Naivasha.
Yeah.
So we also need to protect what people eat and what we sell for export. That balance is very important. And I will probably go towards grains. But the other thing is we need to change even the way we look at the grains. And I always give this example, and I think that Wako is here, I can give this example.
Yeah.
If we had unga in this cup, maize, it cannot even feed Wako. I know they don't eat ugali these days. But if we had muchere, it can feed all of us here. Okay. We need to change the grain revolution. India, Southeast Asia, there are more people than we are.
Yeah.
India is surpassing everybody in the world in the population. But you have never heard people have.
Okay.
Because they changed.
All right.
Anajua kwako unatoka hakuna chakula akiwa hapana ugali.
But Dr. Baraza, let me bring in on this issue of the Roots Party manifesto. Speaking about legalizing cannabis, yani weed. First, what would it take for that to happen? And is it a viable resource?
I think before I come to cannabis, I just want to chip in on what Prof has said about agriculture. We have strangled agriculture.
Okay.
I tried to farm. I got a big farm in Magarini. I tried to do pineapples. I tried to do sugarcane in Kwale. I tried to do mangoes. You hear of markets out there, but there is no support system for farmers in this country.
Yeah.
I have now given up, but there is market out there. Now, the problem with this country is we like importing everything and anything because of what we stand to gain out of that. I know of so many youth who, in my endeavor to farm, I was meeting them in Kajiado. Young people, graduates, they are getting an acre here because they heard you can grow tomatoes, you can grow onions, but we strangled it. You go down Narok, young people on weekends going to Narok to get farms to try to grow wheat.
Yeah.
So they are trying. It's not lack of will on the part of the youth.
Okay.
They are trying, but we strangle the agricultural sector because we want to import eggs, and of course, who is importing the eggs? And what about that scheme in Galana?
Galana Kulalu.
It was hyped. We all waited. We expected we are going to feed ourselves with that maize there. Then it just went silent. What happened? And of course, there is the issue of corruption. They are in this whole agricultural sector.
Yeah.
Our youth can make a living and be rich within the agricultural sector. But we strangle it. Now, coming to cannabis, okay, they say there are countries who have who are making incomes out of it.
Yeah.
I think they need to convince us and to show us real data and statistics on how and how much they are getting and how we are going to protect our youth. I think the excited ones are not looking at it from the point of view of how much income.
Yeah.
They are excited for other reasons.
Okay.
So we need to be convinced that it's not a dangerous thing that we are driving our youth into, and that actually wherever it has been legalized, wherever it has been made as part of the agricultural sector, that it is giving them the returns that really go into the economy to improve the economy.
All right. And Wanjiru, is this an alternative revenue stream? Because it is in their manifesto, the Roots Party of Kenya manifesto.
It is in their manifesto, and if you'll allow me, I'll just add something on the excellent points raised on the agriculture sector, which is it's important to prioritize agriculture. It's important to recognize a lot of agriculture in Kenya is smallholder farmers. It's important to recognize that as you're bringing in technology, it has to be suitable to the existing framework that we have, so that you're not bringing in very sophisticated technology that pushes out the smallholder farmer. And so my question is, where is the farmer? Where is farmer's voice? What is the governance system within the cooperatives? How do we, reawaken the cooperatives and the SACCOs that support agriculture? So I think much as we are talking about the technical and the economic priorities, we must not forget the governance. We must not forget the social accountability, the citizen voice and role, because that's Article 1. And really the sustainability of development is that citizens are at the center of development. Development with the people, by the people, for the people. And government serves the citizen. On the cannabis issue, of course, we want to maximize revenue streams. But we must remember that Kenya's problems are not just economic. We also have social problems. We have political problems. So one of the things I'm finding with the discussion we are having is that there's a strong emphasis on economic needs, which is really, really good. That's progress, because it means our democracies are maturing. But then we are pushing out some of the social and governance issues. They've kind of taken a backstage, and they have to go in tandem. On the issue of marijuana, there's a social side to it. Number one, right now, marijuana is illegal. Bangi is illegal in Kenya. What this means is there's a lot of young people who use the weed that are in prison because of owning and or using small amounts of weed.
Yeah.
There are recommendations to decriminalize bangi so that you can deal with that problem, because I think that creates inequality and that fails to deal with, there's a disconnect between the law and the social reality.
Yeah.
So if we are going to go into marijuana farming commercially, we then need to look at marijuana in terms of its medicinal contribution, but also as a drug, and ask ourselves, how well are we managing our drugs at present? How well are we managing alcohol? How well are we managing tobacco? What are the health impacts of these drugs? Because they are drugs much as they are legalized. And marijuana has, different connotations because of the historical context. But the broader question is, what is the social support system? Kenya is quickly developing a drinking problem. Our young people are quickly developing drinking problems. This has been exacerbated by our kind of skewed taxation that we have on alcohol that makes it cheaper for young people to take hard drinks than it is to drink maybe lower levels of alcohol. So we need to talk about social impacts of the decisions we make, economic decisions we make, so that we have a holistic conversation. So my view is we are looking at one aspect but missing the bigger picture.
Okay. Asaska, is it a realistic proposal?
I find the Roots Party's proposal quite controversial and at the same time interesting. Like, if you ask me personally, I would look at it differently a bit. Yes, there's a social problem around drugs in Kenya. I don't doubt that fact. But if you look just around East Africa, if you look at Rwanda and Uganda, they've legalized the medicinal use of cannabis. And they're making money of it. They're exporting it just like tea or coffee. And they have investors who have come in and they're making money out of it, and that way they're having an alternative revenue stream that is helping develop the country. So I'm not opposed to maybe looking at it differently and having tough guidelines surrounding the production of cannabis. I think it's something maybe we can look at, because
but
currently we have 10 countries
we don't
in Africa.
have enough regulations to deal with the drugs we have currently. So if we add another one, wouldn't
that's
that be a
definitely
recipe
an
for
issue
chaos?
that needs to be addressed fast. And if you remember the late MP of Kibra, he brought the Cannabis Control Bill of 2018, and he had good proposals in there, because it can be used for medicinal value. And if we restrict it, not for recreational purpose, maybe we'll be able to have very strong guidelines that can ensure that the drug cannot be misused.
Okay. Nerima? I'm not coming to you last on this cannabis issue for any reason. No.
Now, on that one, I like that you've come to me next, because I feel I hold the same opinion as Asaska. It's about looking at the differences. It's interesting. It really is. We're thinking outside the box because we have to. We're talking about a population that is majority youth. And not only is it now, it will be for decades to come. And we're talking about a global economy and a global citizen population that will continue to grow. Our health continues to improve. The standards continue to improve. So how are we managing? So things that are going to be key is access to resources, climate change, the environment, and managing pollution as we continue to increase and decrease the number of vehicles or the kind of transport and carbon monoxide going to the environment. So for me, looking at the regulations, if it's for medicinal use, it's very, very helpful for many people who are going through all sorts of long-term illnesses. It is even sometimes prescribed, and it's necessary for them to be able to survive. But then I think what a lot of people are worried about is the misuse of that. And it's the same with all the drugs that we're talking about, like Wanjiru has mentioned.
So Prof, jump in.
I think I'll pick from what he said. And it's economics. If you legalize something, it loses that value it had. And it doesn't become like a gold, the black gold. But I think that what is important, and hearing that it has, and when you're right, it has the value in terms of medicinal. I think what we are balancing here is what do we do for export and what we do also for food security. So we need to balance that. So we can sell, but not at the expense. I think the first step is to ensure every Kenyan has enough food.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. We can still plant flowers. We can plant tea. Tea plays two parts. It plays as an export, but also consume. But it's not food really.
Okay.
I cannot have tea and I say I've had lunch.
Okay.
So we think to be careful in that. The contribution to the economy is questionable, and I hope they have done their maths. I've just looked at it, and really no economy is actually saying we are getting so much from it.
Yes.
But the most important thing is medicinal, because it's medicinal, it helps us now to be productive in other sectors.
Yeah, Dr. Baraza, I know you still want to be convinced in terms of how much money it brings to the economies that have legalized it, but legally speaking, if that was to happen and make cannabis legal, what impact would it have on the previous rulings on people who are incarcerated as we speak for having had some marijuana on them? What impact would that create in the judiciary where you've served before?
If they legalize marijuana now, what it will have on the people in the cells?
Yes.
Well, I guess, is the law retroactive?
No.
I think the law doesn't apply retroactively, but I think the issue here is not the legalization. I think good points have been raised around Wajakoya's or that manifesto about marijuana.
Yes.
I think if it is properly managed, and personally I want to be convinced that it is of an economic value.
Yeah.
If it is, then I think a law can be passed, an appropriate law can be passed. We put in place mechanisms to protect the youth from abuse, and then I think that will be okay. But I need to be convinced that there is some useful. It is a useful venture in terms of agriculture.
All right. Let her finish. I'll come to you. Yeah. Go ahead.
As to and then that will take care of the abuse which has caused the fellows in the cells to be in the cells.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Asaska, you wanted to jump in?
Yes, I'd like to add on what Ms. Barasa has mentioned, that yes, definitely there's a social problem. Yeah. We all agree. And if you look at the 10 countries, I would like to clarify, the 10 countries in Africa that have legalized cannabis, they've only legalized for medicinal use except South Africa. South Africa has legalized both for medicinal use as well as recreational use. So yes, there's a fear around the social problem that the cannabis will bring about. But I also want us to look outside the box, as Nerima has mentioned, that, it's estimated that in Africa alone, cannabis has a market, is worth about $7 billion by 2023. So it's a market that maybe we could try and figure out how best we can get into for the benefit of our development agenda in the country.
Okay. Wanjiru?
Yeah, so I was going to just be clear that I'm not advocating that it don't be legalized.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually a proponent of, if you look at the social reality, cannabis is being used, it's being used by youth, that's why they're winding up in jail. So first of all, it shouldn't have been criminalized, because people shouldn't be in jail because of smoking cannabis. That is quite regressive, and so that's a situation. But if I think the case that Wajakoya is making is, let us legalize cannabis, and I say yes, let us legalize it for medicinal, also for social, because it's in use, and regulate it in the same manner that we would regulate other substances. But recognize that right now our regulation of other substances is not doing so well. That there is a risk that we go in and legalize and we create a culture that is going to destroy our youth. And it's not just youth who have problems with substances, people our age. Because we tend to moralize the use of substances instead of looking at maybe the practical. Maybe we don't deal with our mental health issues so well, maybe our social structures. So this is why I'm saying we need a proper policy framework that looks at the issue holistically, not just from an economic point of view, and definitely not from a moral point of view.
Okay, let's move away from the economy and now talk about the war on corruption. And Dr. Baraza, I'll start with you on this. You've been at the helm of the judiciary. What is really hindering the war on corruption?
The war on corruption is being hindered by corruption.
Corruption itself.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I think it is.
Yes.
Because we have institutions to fight corruption. We have the law to fight corruption. We have constitutional provisions, although we've watered them down, as Wanjiru says. So what is the problem?
Yeah.
And so we hear of cases of corruption, and they are major, and there are many. They are on a daily basis. They come to the courts, and probably you hear about them day one, and then that's the end of it. We just never hear of people getting convicted for corruption. So I don't know what happens, but I want to imagine that there is corruption in the fight against corruption.
People have blamed that on the judiciary for not explaining.
Well, I'm saying I'm not exonerating the judiciary from the corruption issue at all. Because there are things you just can't explain. Or in other institutions, those other institutions to fight corruption.
When you say that things you can't explain, what do you mean?
You arrest people. And by the time you go to arrest a person, you must really have a reason. So what happens beyond the arrest? All right? What happens beyond the being charged in court? I think there is so much which happens in that chain of dealing with corruption. And my argument is that there is corruption, which is fighting to sustain corruption.
So, Prof, what then would be the solution?
Just deal with it head on. There's no two ways about it.
The Roots Party is suggesting bringing back the death penalty.
We do the head on. And what am I talking about head on? We know some countries, you mess up and you are in. That's it. And look, this parallelism. We, as African culture, we respect leadership a lot. Because that's how we've grown up, to respect leadership. And I'll give you an example. Magufuli, and God bless his soul. Magufuli convinced Tanzania there was no COVID. Majimaji, Lilani. They believed him. We knew there was. But that trust of leadership. So today, if that leadership tells us, Kenyans, I don't want this nonsense. Wako you swap, you're in. When it's settled up, stay there until we sort it out.
But there's
right
always
now,
the presumption of innocence.
Somebody's even going that we cannot arrest her. Fine. You see, the narrative you're going, you are guilty unless proved.
You're innocent until proven guilty.
We'll prove you when you're inside there.
But Dr. Baraza, the reason I'm coming to you on this is because
the animal you're dealing with.
Firsthand,
The animal you're dealing with. And let's be a bit serious, and I think we are. The animal we are dealing with, it's what is making our food expensive today. The animal we are dealing with is the one which is making very unsafe to go certain areas. Let
me bring back Baraza before I come to the rest of my panelists. How can it be dealt with, having dealt with this firsthand?
I think the issue of integrity is what is standing in the way on the fight against corruption. It's corruption. It is lack of integrity. And we should deal with it seriously. Look at the people that we have in our institutions. Are they corruptible? From where I sit, I think they are corrupt people.
But Prof, we have enough laws
who are not able to deal with corruption. And that is how those cases go in such a zigzag manner that you never get to get the outcome there. If they are
look at even the word the president. He said last week. Huyu atafunga nyinyi. We are looking for people tutafungwa.
All right.
Why should a youngster who is perhaps my grandson is on the road with a 33 million car? What the hell have you got the car from? Surely. Even if my father is built, whatever, is that a priority?
Yeah.
And I think she's right. It's in our bones. And you know, is something in your bones, you have to go through the cancer process.
Yeah.
You have to go through that process. At times we cut it off.
Okay. All right.
So here,
yes.
Sorry, let me just interject. We watered down chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Too much.
Yeah.
We watered it down because right now I don't understand how people who are facing charges of corruption are the ones seeking the leadership position. How are they ever going to fight corruption? Our devolution, the gem of our Constitution, what is killing devolution is corruption.
Yeah.
And they are the same fellows who are benefiting from corruption in those counties.
Yeah.
And they are the same ones running for positions of leadership. How are they ever going to fight corruption?
Yeah.
I think their main aim is to come and preserve themselves. It is unfortunate we watered down chapter 6, and so we are going to go in circles on this issue of corruption.
Okay, Wanjiru, I'll come to you and talk about this, but let's cross over now to Busara Naman, who's standing by. This time it's not you, Prof. Busara Naman is standing by with the security situation at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, where this multimedia broadcast is coming to you live. Busara?
Na mtazamaji, moja kwa moja tuangazie swala zima la usalama katika chuo hiki ambapo mdahalo unafanyika, na kwa mengi zaidi tunaungana na mkuu wa kitengo cha usalama. Moja kwa moja ningependa ukaribie na uanze kwa kujitambulisha alafu tuendelee.
Kwa majina naitwa Benjamin Mwanzi, Sub County Police Commander Lang'ata.
Na ningependa utueleze, je, ni mikakati gani ambayo mmeweka kuhakikisha kwamba tuko salama, na je tusiwe na wasiwasi?
Nataka kuhakikisha wa Kenya na watu wote ambao wamefika pande hii ya kwamba usalama uko sawa sawa. We have made the necessary arrangements. Tumekuwa hapa since the governor's debate, and since then we have been scaling up security. Kwa saizi security iko sawa sawa, na nahakikisha wananchi ya kwamba wasiwe na wasiwasi yote. Tumeweka usalama ya kutosha.
Naam, basi tayari ameshatueleza kwamba kila kitu kiko shwari, inamaanisha kwamba tusiwe na wasiwasi. Lakini cha mno, je, bado mnaangazia ni akina nani wanaingia? Ni waalikwa tu ama mnaruhusu mtu yoyote?
Si mtu yote anakubaliwa, ni wale wamealikwa. Iko petting kwa gates, iko petting, iko several petting areas kabla hujafika mahali ya debate. So ni wale wamealikwa peke yake, wako na cards, tuna verify kabla hawajaingia. So watu wasikuje isipokuwa wale wamealikwa, na tunaomba wale wamealikwa nao wakuje, na wale watu walitupea wakasema wao ndio wataandamana nao, wasiongeze watu wengine zaidi kwa sababu ya the logistics ambazo tumeweka huko ndani.
Naam. Bila shaka mtazamaji, huyo ni Benjamin Mwanthi, ni OCPD wa Lang'ata, ambaye anatujuza mengi kuhusiana na shughuli nzima ya usalama katika eneo hili, na kama alivyosema kila kitu kiko shwari. Kwa hivyo mtazamaji, kama uko nyumbani endelea kutazama kwenye runinga yako, kama uko na radio sikiliza, kama uko na bundles basi angalia mtandaoni mtazamaji, uweze kujionea yote yanayojiri katika mdahalo wa leo wa wagombea wenza. Kufikia hapo narudisha upande mwingine wa studio kwako Trevor.
Asante sana Busara Naman, kila kitu kiko shwari. Kiswahili. Wanjiru, let me bring you back into this. You've been dealing with this issue of corruption for the longest time now. What are the best options of dealing with it?
Great, yes. As an institution, we deal with social accountability, which is really strengthening citizen voice for accountability. Corruption proper, you're looking at abuse of office and you know, the penalties and the kind of remedies you have on that. And how do we deal with the problem of corruption? First of all is to recognize that, as Prof has said, as Daktari has said, it's become a part of our culture. In 2015, I think it was, the Aga Khan University published a study on youth perceptions and expectations, and youth said it doesn't matter how you make your money, as long as you make your money, and corruption's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So if you're going to talk about prudent use of public resources to youth, it's not going to resonate, because the interest is to make money by any means. We become very consumerist. Our value system is about consumption, and it's about, you know, acquiring money so that I can consume, like Prof is saying, enjoy a big car, the soft life.
Yeah.
So we need to deal with the culture. The other thing, of course, it's about leadership, and it is about Chapter 6. And so we are looking for a political party that is serious about Chapter 6, that's making some good, strong recommendations, and have a track record on delivery. The problem we are having, and it's a crisis that's facing us, is we are having more and more leaders who have violated public office, who are involved in drug cartels or money laundering cartels, rapes and violations, and are actually in court. You know, sometimes it's rumors, sometimes they're even in court, and they're able to get into public office. And as Daktari has said, what will they do once in office? They will water down the law. So we are caught in a cycle.
So it's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, but we must give ourselves some opportunity for hope. Number one, as we go to vote, Kenyans must refuse to vote for leaders who are implicated in corruption or other forms of public abuse of public office, so socially. Number two, we need to align with leaders who have expressed their interest and have a track record in fighting corruption. And then also in our own...
Wanjiru, hold that thought in just a bit. There's an important process that's coming through. This time it's not Prof again, it's you interruptions coming through. Let's cross over twice now, so at least now you're even. Nimrod Tabu is standing by with the balloting process. It's an important process and he'll explain why. Nimrod?
Na asante sana Trevor Mbija kutoka studio nyingine. Hapa tuko katika sehemu moja muhimu, na kama unavyoona ninao wagombea wenza wawili ambao tayari washafika tayari kwa mdahalo wa leo. Bi Justina Wamae hapa na Bi Ruth Mutua tayari kuanzisha kipenga chetu cha mdahalo wa leo. Lakini kazi iliyoko hapa ni kazi fupi ndogo ya moja kwa moja kuweza kumchagua yule atakayeingia jukwani wa kwanza, yule atakayerushiwa maswali ya kwanza na kujieleza wa kwanza. Kwa hivyo Bi Ruth na Bi Justina, ningewaomba tu kwa wepesi tu kila mmoja aweze kuchukua karatasi yake ambayo ni kura, halafu moja kwa moja tuweze kuzionyesha kwenye mpiga picha moja kwa moja. Mwaweza kufanya hivyo maana nishawapa kibali. Ameanza Bi Justina, akafuatia Bi Ruth, moja kwa moja kuweza kufungua tuweze kujua. Haya basi, ni kama unavyoona upande wangu wa kushoto, nambari wa kwanza atakayoingia jukwani si mwingine ila Bi Justina, wa pili atafuatia ni Bi Ruth. Na moja kwa moja basi niwaeleze kwa kifupi tu, kwa kuwa yule anaingia kwanza anaingia sehemu ya kushoto kuangalia wale wageni walioko mbele yetu. Kwa hivyo ni shughuli tu ya moja kwa moja kuingia na kuweza kuanza kusubiri mdahalo kuweza kuanza rasmi. Asanteni sana na natakia kila laheri. Asante.
All right, asante sana Nimrod Tabu. That's Nimrod Tabu during the balloting process. Now that's an important process because now we know Justina Wamae of the Roots Party is taken number 1 and Ruth Mutua is number 2. What that means is Justina will be the first one to make her opening remarks and also the first one to make her closing remarks. That's the reason why the balloting process is important, so that we align on who goes first, right? Yeah, you're finishing your thoughts on recommendations of dealing with corruption.
How do you deal with this monster of corruption? Number one is implement the law, because there are provisions. We need transparency. We need to know who the beneficial owners of public-sponsored projects are when you have private sector working with with government, because what we are having is government officials enriching themselves through public schemes. So beneficial ownership, we need transparency, disclosure of the contracts. We are in court over the SGR. There is also a case on the Nairobi Expressway and many other. So we need to enforce the law. We also need to revisit our civic education, because how did we manage to overthrow the dictatorial authoritarian Moi regime? There was a lot of civic education done in the 90s to ensure citizens owned their democracy and, were pushing for a democratic dispensation. Unfortunately, after the NAC administration came into office, we continued with civic education, but we lost the tempo. And under the Jubilee administration, there's been no civic education at all. So citizens are really not in step with our governance structure, which is becoming more and more sophisticated. So we need to go back to civic education, look at countries that have transformed their culture. And I remember, Prof, when you were at the Vision 2030 talking to us about some of the examples and how you do education at the family level, you do it at the community level to promote leadership and good values.
Well, again, I have to disrupt you one moment now. I'll come back to Nerima and now she has 3 against 2. We're taking a quick break here. When we come back, debate 1 will be taking place right after this break, all right?
What is a secondary school in Kenya? It ranges from 106 high-cost national schools educating 3% of the learners, where you find ultra-modern libraries and laboratories, the most experienced principals and teachers, and the best teacher-student ratios. To 7,019, some barely established, understaffed, lacking basic facilities, sub-county schools, educating over 60% of learners. Given that KCSE is the most consequential examination in our education system, isn't it fair that we level the ground for all learners to excel by narrowing the capacity gaps between the worst and best schools to deliver quality education? Usawa Agenda calls for a sub-county schools upgrading program and a change from the capitation model to enable small schools to grow. Without these, SDG 4 is a false promise to most Kenyan children.
Karibu Kam. By offering market linkages, networking opportunities, and technical assistance, Kenya Association of Manufacturers assists its members to grow and scale up their businesses. Join us and let us work together to grow the manufacturing sector. Becoming a CAM member is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Kenya Association of Manufacturers, driving global competitiveness.
Najivunia sana kwa Mkenya kwa sababu ni nchi ya amani.
Naweza tembea Kenya yote bila kusumbuliwa.
Kenya is one country that is most admired because of marathon runners.
Our culture is one of the best in the world.
Nashukuru kwa sababu ya demokrasia tulionayo.
Kenya ni nchi bora, yani yapendeza tu.
When we hate, demonize, and divide, we become them and us. But when we unite in solidarity,
tumechoka na mauaji ya kiolela yanayofanyika katika mitaa yetu duni.
Compassion and respect, our actions become more powerful. And together we can change the world.
My core experience can be summarized in a nutshell as one of transformation. I think once I joined this campus, I didn't have a vision of where I wanted to be. I didn't know who I was and what I wanted to do with my life. And I feel like the environment and the people who've mentored me along the way have enabled me to find out who I am and have helped me figure out where I want to go in this life. They have a good quality education, which I 100% vouch for.
Enroll at Catholic University of Eastern Africa for courses in nursing, law, business, economics, computer science, education, community health and development, actuarial science, international relations, counseling psychology, regional integration and theology. September intake ongoing at Langata and Eldoret campuses. Email admissions@quer.edu or visit quer.edu. Quer for innovative, marketable graduates.
Check it. Let's talk about banking. Or let's talk about dreams and goals. Your dreams, your goals.
If you're like Louise, you value doing biz with ease. Or maybe you're like Dan, a family man with a plan. At Diamond Trust Bank, it starts with one dream, one goal, one deposit, and one transaction. Pamoja, let's make it happen. So don't just bank with us, bank on us.
Good evening and welcome to the Pope Paul VI Learning Resource Center at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa in Nairobi. My name is Francis Gashuri of Citizen TV and Inoro TV.
Na jina langu ni Zubeida Kome kutoka kituo cha KTN News. Karibuni popote pale mnapotupokea katika mjadala huu kati ya wagombeaji wenza wa kiti cha urais katika uchaguzi ujao wa mwezi Agosti.
This is the first of two debates involving running mates of the four candidates cleared to run for president. In this debate, we are hosting Ruth Wangoe Musheru, the deputy presidential candidate for the Agano Party, and Justina Wamboe Wamae, the deputy presidential candidate for the Roots Party.
Na kulingana na maelekezo yanayothibiti hafla hii, wagombeaji wenza wa urais wana muda wa dakika 90 za malumbano kati yao wenyewe, malumbano ambayo pia yataelekezwa na maswali kutoka kwangu Zubeida na mwenzangu Francis Gashuri. Maswali ni yetu wenyewe na hayajajadiliwa kati yetu na yeyote yule ndani au nje ya kampeni husika.
And indeed, our questions are clustered into 6 segments, each running for 15 minutes. As per our debate rules, each candidate has 2 minutes to make an opening statement, 2 minutes to answer a question, and 60 seconds for a rebuttal. The topics have carefully been selected through a thorough assessment of sentiments over Kenyans across the country.
Naam, maelekezo yetu pia yanashauri na kuwataka wagombeaji wote kuendeleza mjadala huu kwa lugha, nia na njia zinazohifadhi heshima kati yao, kati yetu hapa na hata kwa watazamaji wanaofuatilia matangazo haya mbashara. Hii ina maana kwamba lugha isiyofaa, ikiwa ni pamoja na maneno yanayoweza kupewa tafsiri ya matusi, hayataruhusiwa kwenye mjadala huu.
The same responsibility shared by the audience seated here in the auditorium. Debate rules do not permit any cheers or jeers, except now, when we turn our attention to the debate platform to welcome the deputy presidential candidates, Justina Wamae and Ruth Musheru.
Naam. Kulingana na kura ambayo imepigwa awali kuambatana na wanaowania wakiwa wagombea wenza kwenye kinyang'anyiro cha urais kwenye uchaguzi mkuu ujao, Justina Wamae wa Roots Party ndiye amepata nambari ya kwanza, kumaanisha kwamba ndiye atazungumza akiwa wa kwanza, na vile vile tuko naye Ruth Wangoi Musheru wa chama cha Agano. Karibuni sana.
Asante.
Welcome, ladies, and for purposes of this discussion, allow me to refer to you as Madam Justina and Madam Ruth. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, Madam Justina. You have 2 minutes to tell us why do you want to be Deputy President in the Republic of Kenya?
Thank you very much, Kashori and Zubeida, and thank you everyone who is here. We appreciate. Justina Wamae is emotionally intelligent. She's vibrant. She's someone who looks into the future. And given the fact that I was born in Kibera and I am where I am today, I feel I've achieved, which is encouragement to anyone at home. In 2013 and 2017, I must say I was a consumer of this production. I was at home watching. But today I'm part of the production. So I feel very humbled. And given that I understand the role of a DP, that you deputize the president in all execution of his duties, I am ready for it. My educational background in procurement, having a master's in procurement, links with the public service. We are out to run an efficient government, a government that looks into how we are managing our money. So that gives me the upper hand. And again, being 35 years a youth, I can resonate with the challenges the youth are facing. Besides, I had ran for Mavoko in 2017, member of National Assembly. And many people were asking, why the member of National Assembly? My drive then was to go into National Assembly and formulate and sponsor bills that are youth responsive. So when I speak here, I know the plight of the youth, I know the plight of the women, and my focus is telling the Kenyans the truth, that it is not easy, but we are going to make it. The future is beautiful for Kenya, and that is what Roots Party stands for.
Naam, shukran sana Bi Justina. Bi Ruth, una muda wa dakika 2 kuanzia sasa kutueleza mbona unatosha kuwa makamu wa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Asante sana Zubeda. Nashukuru the media council that you have given us the chance to sell our manifesto and tell the Kenyans what we have for you. I am Ruth Wangoi Musheru. I am a daughter. I am a wife to one Mr. Mutua. I am a mother, and I'm here before you to tell you what Agano is coming to change and the required change that all Kenyans have been waiting for. And to ensure that whatever you desire and whatever you want to achieve, Agano gives you. And what our policy is that we bring the money back. Agano inarudisha pesa ya Wakenya.
Welcome. And once more, Madam Justina, the role of Deputy President is outlined in the Constitution. Yes. Do you understand that role well? And how would you utilize it if elected Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, together with your presidential candidate in the August 9th general election?
In the Constitution, the role of Deputy President is outlined in Article 147. The first sub-article says that you're to deputize the President and in the execution of his duties. I understand this because currently we're having challenges, and maybe it's because of the aspect that politics in this country has taken. Politics is about numbers, they say. Politics is about tribal inclination and who has the tyranny of numbers. But our idea as Roots Party is that every Kenyan is having the challenge of unemployment, high cost of living. So we are here to speak to an individual Kenyan, devoid of tribe. And when I stand here, how am I going to execute? My work is not to start fighting my boss and telling him, I brought this in, I am better than you in this. No. My role is to support the Roots Party manifesto, which, by the way, it focuses on economic upswing, which we shall discuss, and legalizing and regulation of marijuana, which we shall also discuss in length. So I understand my role well, and for me, I do know that there's a president who is the supreme, and then I come in as a support system.
Madam Ruth, similar 2 minutes to respond to this question. Your understanding of the role of deputy president, and how would you execute that function of deputy president if elected in about 20 days?
We know that deputy president is the second highest political seat. So my business is to assist the president. My business is to sit in while the president goes out on duty. My business is to ensure that this country runs as long as the president has given me the mandate to do so. So Kenyans will not have the gap. And for me to have been picked as the lady of Agano Party, I am coming in to bring a balance. I am coming in to bring a change and decision-making on the woman level and the youth level.
Bado una kidogo samahani, una dakika moja unusu, bado na dakika 20, sekunde 20, bado una la kuongeza au umekamilisha?
Makamu wa rais huwa anasaidia rais mwenyewe, huwa anasaidia kutekeleza majibu ile, the work that has been given to her in the presidential aspect. So my business is to assist. My business is to play the part of assisting and implementing what the captain and the 5th Mwaure David has stipulated.
Na hapo basi ndo nitaingia Justina. Amesema kazi ya makamu wa rais ni kusaidia. Je, mnakuja kusaidia tu? Mna mawazo? Ni watu ambao mnaweza kushauri? Au mmechaguliwa kwa sababu nyinyi ni wanawake? Wewe binafsi umechaguliwa kwa sababu wewe ni mwanamke au ni kwa sababu una uwezo?
Kwanza hilo swali la kuwa wanawake, Ruth and I are assuring Kenyans, hakuna cat fight hapa, si ndio?
Hakuna.
We are going to share and execute what Ruth's party requires. We are just not only supporting. The deputy president has a role in giving their voice. And my role there is to amplify the youth voice, to amplify the women voice, because as it is where we are, I am happy because in leadership, we have women in leadership, but we need more. So our role is to put in that the women also can add value. We are here to represent, or I'm here to represent the Kenyan woman in the kitchen who knows the high cost of cooking oil. It's affecting her. I'm here to represent the women who fuel their own cars. I'm here to represent the stay-at-home women who, when you tell your husband to give you money, he starts thinking you're not spending the money well. Yet it is the economy that has deteriorated. There's so much inflation. So it is not just to support. That is part of it. Part of it is to amplify our agenda as women, who we have been left behind for a very long time in this development agenda. So kusupport na kuweka sauti zetu. Kama mimi, kama wanawake, na kama vijana.
Madam Ruth, what is your voice then? Arguably in the political sphere, somebody would ask you, what do you bring to the table? So what do you bring to the table in terms of capacity, in terms of the understanding of this role, in terms of your ability to execute the functions of deputy president, if Kenyans give you the nod in about 20 days in this election?
Okay, what I'm bringing in, one is the difference in leadership, that now, for the first time, to make history, is that we will have a lady deputy president. That, for me, is a key factor. I am coming in with intelligence, with my intelligence. I am coming in corruption-free. I'm coming in as a trustworthy person. I'm coming in to bring the development agenda that has been left out of the woman and the youth.
Na Bi Justina, inakutia wasiwasi kwamba kwa upande mmoja mnaonekana ni kama kidogo kama Ruth Party, mnakuja kukiuka maadili. Unaogopa kwamba hiyo inamweka kidedea Bi Ruth katika kinyang'anyiro hiki, kwamba unaonekana nyinyi mnakuja kuharibu, yeye inamweka kidedea katika kuvutia kura zaidi? Inakutia wasiwasi?
Sina wasiwasi, kwa sababu Wakenya mahali wamefika. Mkenya amefinyika because ya uchumi umezorota. Idea zetu ni za kusaidia Wakenya. Kwa hivyo sina uoga wowote, niko hapa nitajibu maswali yote, because my role nilipoingia nilisema ni kudestigmatize manifesto ya Roots Party. Hata Ruth kabla anipige tukue na malumbano, ningependa asikize vizuri, ndio akiniuliza swali we from a point of her understanding. Kwa hivyo sina uoga wowote.
Na unaposema, nikupe dakika nyingine moja, unaposema hauna uoga wowote. Awali nimesikia ukizungumza kuhusu tyranny of numbers. Nyinyi wawili yaonekana ni wageni katika ulingo wa siasa. Hauoni kana kwamba kuwa wageni kule kuna wapa ile disadvantage mkilinganisha na wale ambao pia wanagombea wadhifa huu wa kuwa naibu rais? Nyinyi ni wageni kwenye ulingo wa siasa.
Ndio, naweza kuwa mimi ni mgeni, lakini mgeni huja na heri njema. Miaka 30 tunaobishana nao wamekuwa kwenye siasa. Tyranny of numbers imetumika kila saa kusema watu wetu. Lakini kama iko sahi, ni kila Mkenya awaze ajiulize, hawa viongozi ama hii serikali inanifaidi aje kibinafsi? Kwa hivyo mimi na Roots Party tunaleta mind shift, change of mindset. Mkenya akuwe selfish kivyake, aseme ingawaje kabila langu liko uongozini sijasaidika, lakini hawa hata kama sio kabila langu wako na agenda na wanataka kupeleka Kenya mbele. So I'm not scared in any way.
Anakutisha Ruth? Anakutisha Justina?
Not at all. Tuko hapa kuleta mabadiliko ile Wakenya wanatarajia. So we are coming in to bring the change. Hii ni uongozi mpya. We are not frightened with the fact that there is tyranny of numbers. Those are numbers. But the actual fact is Wakenya wamechoka. Tumekuja kuleta mabadiliko ile wamekuwa wakingojea.
Madam Ruth, 30 more seconds. Where are those numbers? Unasema you also have your numbers. Where are those numbers?
The numbers are there, Francis. You know, as the fifth Mwaure Wahiga said, some of these research institutes have been sponsored. So what they are doing to us and the Kenyans is reverse psychology. So that means they're trying to say the tyranny of numbers has an upper hand. Lakini ninataka kueleza kuna mabadiliko na agano iko site, watu wakate simu.
Na vile Bi Justina,
yes.
Tunapoangalia katika uongozi na katika nafasi ambayo mmesema kwamba mnaielewa vyema ya makamu wa rais. Tuseme kwa mfano kesho mgombea urais kwa tiketi ya Roots Party awe kwamba hawezi kuongoza. Tuseme umechaguliwa. Nini ambacho kinakupa hiyo motisha au uweze kuwa na ule ushawishi wa kuwa kwamba unaweza kuongoza kama rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya? Kweli unatosha kuongoza kama rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya?
Zubeida, ukiangalia leadership iko na two aspects, the hard and the soft. The hard ni what you have been doing, legislations and regulations. But the soft is you talk to the hearts and minds of Kenyans. Hearts of minds of Kenyans inasema 5.5 million of Kenyans are unemployed. 1.2 million of Kenyans live below the poverty line of 220 shillings daily. That is what Kenyans are speaking about. Na hiyo ndio inanipatia courage, nasema ingawaje labda amwezi jizungumzia, mimi najitoa na nazungumzia. That is the truth of the matter, that Kenyans are struggling. Pia niko hapa, I'm representing the many parents who take loans to educate their children. Unajua wazazi wetu wakati walikuwa wanaona ati wao wakichukuliwa kazi ilikuwa after form 4 wanaenda kazi kwenye benki. But now our time, mzazi hiyo time akaona labda degree ndio itasaidia mtoto wangu apate kazi. Unfortunately, hakuna kazi, wazazi wamejekelea loans. Kwa hivyo mimi nazungumzia wazazi wetu, nazungumzia ule youth hana kazi, nazungumzia mpaka wale watu ambao in 1998 kulikuwa na bomb blast. Our Kenya wengi, over 3,000 were never compensated. And this comes to the respect. Unajua wenye walilipwa ni watu wa American Embassy and the Tanzanians and those Americans who are victims. But Kenyans were not compensated. In my thinking, mtazamo wangu ni kwamba hawakulipwa kwa sababu Kenya haipewi heshima. Utapewaje heshima na una pesa? Angalia Middle East. Wakenya wanaenda kutafuta greener pastures, wanatesekea huko. Many a times people ask ati ambassador anafanya nini? Lakini niulize, ambassador na pesa ya mafuta. Sisi hatuna, ni madeni tumejaza tele. Atawezaje kusimama na huyu mwingine? So our idea na Kenya kinanisukuma ni kwamba tunataka Kenya ipewe heshima, and we want when we talk, venye mzungu alisema put your money where your mouth is, tuweze kuongea juu tuko na nguvu.
Madam Justina, 1 minute. There's something that has come up about sponsorship. Are you being sponsored by anybody, your ticket to run for this presidential race?
No, we are not being sponsored. And this is a question I'm posing. why should we have the best ideas than the sponsoree, if that's the question? Our idea is unique, we are fresh, we are new, we are not being sponsored. The challenge we are facing is that when we say that this one is doing well, people say we are being sponsored by the other. When you say we anafanya vizuri, tunasema si hivyo. But the politics you are pushing right now is that politics you are doing. Politics is about amplifying the voices of Kenyans, giving different interest groups their voices. Na mwenye anashinda tunampa heshima. So we are not being sponsored by anybody. We are here mpaka mwisho.
Ruth, where do you get the impression that they are being sponsored by anyone?
Clearly. Wanakatata kutupatia even our own marks. In school, even the student who has 0, huwa anarudishiwa karatasi yake na scorecard. Lakini sasa, our research institutes wamekuwa sponsored, wanatoa huyu mtoto mmoja, which I seriously think that ni kupunguza, wanapunguza namba zetu. Probably we could be a threat because Kenyans are tired. They want new leadership.
Na haswa iwapo hampati ufadhili au msukumo kutoka kwa mtu yeyote, haswa nani anafadhili kampeni zenu kama Roots Party?
Our mode of campaign ni kama ile ilitumika na PM wa India, Modi. Wakenya wamechoka in a way, they tell us come to Nakuru. Tunawaambia hatuna pesa. Someone tells you end of fuel kwa petrol station yangu, ama wanajiunga wenye petrol station, fuel there. Mwingine lala in my hotel, I'll give you food. Bora mkuje Nakuru muongeleshe watu. That is our mode of campaign. And by the way, hakuna pesa si tumeibia Mkenya. And that is what hiyo kasumba tunataka kubadilisha. Kenyans, I blame you for poor leadership. Because kila sasa ya siasa watu wanasemanga kameiva tunakafunga, because mwanasiasa akikuja you want to be given something. Hiyo ndio ina motivate wanasiasa kuiba, wakiingia ndani they recoup, there's return on investment. Haizi ekelea pesa yake hapo alafu afikiria ati unakula freely. No wonder we have bad leadership. Kwa hivyo wewe Mkenya ukiona watu wanakuja campaign, usituchukie juu hatuna kitu. Sisi tuko na idea ya kupeleka Kenya mbele. In the next 5 years tukiwa kwenye kiti, mtakuwa mnatupatia pesa ya campaign.
Na labda ni kuongeza dakika moja, je, Roots Party inakuja kuharibu kura ya vijana na kuharibu vijana?
Naweza sema nobody owns anyone's vote. Our role hapa ni kuambia wa Kenya that there is alternative. Si kila siku hiyo 30 years mmeambiwa ati tunafanya hivi. No, ours is to give alternative. No one owns any vote. Na Mkenya usiogope kupigia Roots Party kura ati because when you are nani. And there's also another question. Kenyans are saying you should have started earlier. Let me say this. Official campaign period began on May 29th, 2022. So hakuna mapema tungekuja because we follow the law. Number 2, we have not yet gone into election. So you can vote for Roots Party, usiogope atijueni wa mtu mwingine. And finally, wa Kenya, kuambiwa that you're owned by someone is negating on our gains on democracy. This debate here has to achieve the purpose. The purpose is to convert the many Kenyans who we never find during the campaign trail, lakini wako kazini. So musikize na tuendelee pamoja.
Bi Ruth, labda kuambatanisha na hilo, mmeonekana kutoridhika sana na yale ambayo yanaendeshwa na Roots Party. Mna wasiwasi eti kwamba wanakuja kuharibu vijana, kwa nini?
Tuseme ukweli. Marijuana, bangi, we say it is illegal. Sasa hii sera wanakuja kuuza, tunangoja kusikia venye wataweza kutuzia sisi wenyewe. And already, it is an illegal substance. So how do we work around such manifestos? So maybe Justina will let us know further how far they can go with marijuana. I will give an example of kijana moja alikuwa nafanya kazi some place that I lived back then. Alikuwa nafieka nyasi at 11 p.m. Na nikenda nikamuuliza. So I asked him the following morning because I had the noise from outside. Nikamuuliza what happened. Okay, I had heard the history that anavuta bangi. So I asked him in the morning, kwa nini ulikuwa unafieka nyasi saa 5 za usiku? Akaniambia, madam, nilikuwa napunguza kazi ya leo. So realistically, kama unapunguza kazi ya leo kufieka nyasi 11 p.m., I think kuna shida na tunaweza kuwa tunaelekea in the wrong direction.
Madam Justina, now you seem eager to say something about that?
Yeah, I'm happy Ruth is very respectful and she wants to listen to our manifesto. Let me say this. Our idea, and Kenyans, I want us to be very conscious and, open up your minds. And before I explain, let me give you a quote by a guy called Ralph Waldo. He said, in every generation, there are map makers who see opportunities, seize the opportunity, and open man's vision to the future.
That is the direction Roots Party is taking. Now, marijuana. It's true. It's unfortunate. By the way, it's true. Many people get that I have seen. I cannot say that they are not there. But remember, most people have mental challenges because of one, unemployment, cost of high living, that brings about depression. Alafu unaona watu wanapigana kwa malumbano. So high cost of living can account for the madness in this country. Actually, in Mathare, or rather the statistics in Kenya, 3 million of Kenyans suffer mental challenges. Why is it so? And yet marijuana is illegal. But let me say this, the marijuana we are advocating for. I'm happy that Kenyans have all gone through a science class in primary, a biology class in high school. There's something called species or cousins of plants. The marijuana is a plant, yes.
No.
Muda
umekwisha, lakini nitakuongezea sekunde 30 kabla nirudi kwake Ruth. Wewe binafsi umewahi vuta bangi?
Sijawahi na sitawahi. Sijawahi na sitawahi.
Hujawahi na hautawahi.
Zubeida usikize hapa.
Kidogo niulize swali kisha utanijibu na nitakupa dakika 2 kuweza kueleza. Hujawahi kuvuta bangi na hautawahi kuvuta bangi.
Ile tutavuta ni ya ku purify.
Na mbona mruhusu vijana na mbona mhubiri kitu ambacho wewe binafsi haukiamini? Mbona uhubiri mvinyo ilhali wewe unakunywa maji?
Haya, tulia Zubeida usikie mambo. Now, Kenyans, like I said, you are here to open up your vision to the future. There are 2 species of marijuana, or they are cousins, let me say that. Cousin moja anaitwa THC, which has the psychoactive ingredient. That is the cannabis sativa that you hear all the time, imeshikwa na watu wa DCI. But sisi focus yetu ni CBD, or cannabis. That one gives you industrial hemp. So when you go hata venye professor anasema itapandwa kwa expressway and you pick a leaf and chew, it's only going to give a detox, let me tell you. And saiji watu wako na simu zao. Can you Google hemp seed sales in Kenya? Those products are in sale because zinakwambia zinakupatia immunity, zinakupatia omega 3. Unaona, it boosts your immunity. Those products are on sale and they do not have the psychoactive ingredient yenye inafanya watu wana lose focus. That is the bangi you are advocating for. And industrial hemp is used in 9 sectors, namely textile, construction, magari, makeup. Unaona hii makeup tumejipaka. The options, food and beverage, the options are many. So we are not here. And let me tell you Kenyans, consumption ama kuvuta ni kitu kidogo sana.
Ruth, unamwamini?
Simuamini. Ya kwanza amesema ni ya kupurify. I don't know what we are purifying with bang. I don't know what part we are purifying. Kwa hivyo ningetaka aweze kutuelezea kama ni damu tunaosha, kwa sababu kama ina purify na ni dawa, si tuapishwe 10th alafu 11th hospitali zifungwe kwa sababu ni dawa. Let us hear, how does it purify? I would wish to know.
Nimjibu Ruth, purifying si ati detox, kuna difference. Nimesema purify si detox. Kwa hivyo una need dawa ndio. And most medicine is made out of marijuana. Those medicine for epilepsy, cerebral palsy, pains, easy pains, watu wanakuanga chronic pains. So medicine inatengenezwa from marijuana. So already you're consuming. But nimesema purification process. Purification process, angalia, purification process ni, we have a challenge in this country. Mainly corruption. 2 billion is lost every day. We were told that. But you know corruption stems from what? Scarcity mentality. There are no other options in this country to make money. So everyone wants to go into politics where the salaries are lucrative. So your scarcity mentality, unaingia, you amass for yourself. So we are going to be purifying the scarcity mentality and the bad impact of corruption, colonialism, tribalism. Hizo vitu ni spiritual and we are going to purify them. Ndio ziishe kwa hii nchi. Ndio tukianza kazi, ile siku tutaapishwa, Kenya ikuwe safi, clean slate. So we are not smoking ati kufurahisha.
Justina, umesema how you don't take the substance. Na umesema that means we are all consumers of bang through medicinal,
yes.
The medicinal part of it. So that means then why are we having it legal in our constitution? So what is the reason why we have not legalized it from the beginning? That means kuna madhara ile wataalamu wanajua ndiposa hawajapitisha hapa kwetu Kenya.
Let me answer Ruth. Ukiangalia nakada ilipatiwa gazettement in 2001. The economic challenge at that time, we had a government, a new election was coming up in 2002. There was teacher strike, banker strikes, the economy was doing badly. So IMF told Kenya, come up with a law criminalizing marijuana. And you know IMF ni akina nani? China is there, France is there, UK is there, Canada is there, US is there. They have legalized. So for them, waliona, our jinga Joanna do, let me use that word, we give them, we curtail their opportunities. Remember, we have arable land, plenty of land for this thing. So they curtailed our potential to invest in this so that they can give us loans on high interest. That was the idea. And when I say Kenya inastahili heshima, it's because we are disrespected juu hatuna pesa. So our idea, if they have legalized, yet they're the same ones who are coming here to tell us it's wrong, then I think we are still being colonized.
Aki Justina, mi sija approve hiyo.
I don't expect you to do manifesto
kwa sababu Jamaica would have been a first world country.
They are doing so well in terms of their economy. Their GDP is great, more than ours. They are doing well. Take a book.
Madam Justina, in 2 minutes.
Yes.
Marijuana is not just illegal in Kenya. It is also illegal in other countries.
Yes.
We've also seen situations in this country where certain people grow marijuana. Why have they not been rich if growing marijuana was such a lucrative business?
When you look at our neighbors, let's talk about Africa. Malawi has legalized for medicinal and it's restricted. Uganda is doing it, but it's the Israeli government who have come in to help them. As it is with their loan, Uganda was about to go the Sri Lanka way. So Uganda went to Israel. Their land is rocky. So they came here and they were located in Uganda, 500,000 acres, in terms of a bilateral agreement, and they are reaping returns from that. So the other countries, they have done it. Why not us? Why not us? Why should we not do it? That is my question. And like I said, our role is to open the vision, Kenyan's vision, into the future. Marijuana is versatile. I said it is used in 9 sectors: food, beverage, medicine, construction, textile, makeup, easy fibers za gari. A headlight today, ukigongewa headlight yako, goes for 27,000 for those who own cars. But you know why? Because the demand is in Kenya, but the supply iko China. So of course the forces of demand are in place, na ndo maana inakuwa costly. And I'll say this, there is this governor of Minnesota, he was called Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura was in wrestling a while back. But why he was fighting for legalization of marijuana in Minnesota was because after 41 years of marriage, his wife suffered epilepsy. And he was pushing because when he took her to South Carolina, she got well. So the idea is do not control the supply, control the demand by making sure it's going into the 9 sectors that you have said and for export. That is our idea.
Madam Ruth, I can see disbelief all over your face.
I still do not agree to all this theory. Na ndiposa naambia wa Kenya, kateni simu, agano iko side. This is not practical. The law tells us clearly that it is illegal to have bang. So how else, na amesema, na yeye mwenyewe alisema ama amesema sahi, that they will smoke bang on the 10th. I'm looking for a happy mother. I am a mother.
Ruth,
I'm looking for a happy mother
CBD,
that
THC,
will, no,
CBD.
I am looking, allow me to answer. I'm looking for a happy mother who will attest that mtoto wake amevuta bangi and they are okay. Yeye mwenyewe pia najua ni mama. Nataka kujua, atakubali mtoto wake avute bangi on that 10th. Because for me, I don't think I would allow my children to take it up, nor my sisters and brothers.
Good question. And I'm going to answer this question to you and Kenyans as Mama Wambui. I said open up your minds, dear Kenyans. The marijuana we are advocating for is industrial hemp. I think I gave the clarification, not THC. So Ruth, stop belaboring this idea that we are smoking. It is not for consumption. And is it smoking? It is for purification. You can even put it in those things, you naichoma mahali, inatoa scent. So it's not smoking, it's purification. There's a difference. And it's true, Ruth.
Okay.
Mothers are suffering. Let me say this. I don't want to come off like I don't relate. I have seen mothers are suffering. And that is why Ruth's party has said, anyone who attempts to grow cannabis sativa, we are growing CBD or cannabis. We already have regulations in place. Number 1, we license all farmers. Number 2, we'll introduce agricultural officers to go around this country looking at those farmers and what they're doing. And there's a distinction. Even you, Kenyan, you can report someone growing sativa. Why? The leaves of industrial hemp are very large, but the leaves of sativa are very small. So the agricultural officers will control licensing. So I think we're already controlling this measure.
Let me give you 1 more minute to explain this. This is the theoretical talk about agriculture in terms of growing marijuana. What are the practicals? Have you identified the areas that you intend to grow this marijuana? What are the economic returns if this was to be allowed, if you're to become deputy president?
Okay, marijuana is going to spur up our economy because agriculture has been given a backseat. The challenge you're having now because of FLA, many of the Kenyans or the youth who are in the bread basket of Kenyans have migrated to the urban areas to do what? To be boda riders. They're thinking there's money because agriculture, they're not viewing it like it has money. So these are the returns. Look at China, for example. In 2021, they made 1.2 billion USD out of 169,000 acres. That is China. Now, look at our case. And by the way, land in Kenya, when you look at the NLC report, Kenya is close to 144 million in acres. 80% they say is dry and arid. 20% is what we are using. So when you bring marijuana will be like crop cover to stimulate our soil so that it can be able to produce other things. So we are focusing on the arid area, the 80% of it. 20% of it is where Kenyans are crowded. So we'll open up space so that we use all the other land that we have.
Bi Ruth, kidogo kuambatana na kile ambacho wamesema, unadhani uchumi wa Kenya haujaimarika kwa sababu hatujahalalisha bangi? Wakenya wanaumia kutokana na gharama ya maisha kwa sababu hatujahalalisha bangi?
Hapana, sikubaliani na hiyo. Uchumi umezoroteka kwa sababu ya corruption. And that is why Kenyans, we are coming in to bring in a new leadership, a new change in how things run in this country, and give a Gano party, Mwaure Waihiga, the chance to come and be the president of this country. Corruption has eaten us up. In every corner of each sector, corruption has eaten us up. It's not that we do not have bangi, lakini corruption imetukula sisi wenyewe. We have eaten ourselves up. And a few of us know ourselves. So we are going to deal with that.
Let me add something quickly. Okay, when you look at private businesses, they look at what is our competitive edge. How can we be ahead of our competitors? So not that uchumi imeharibika because of no legalization of banking. Of course, I agree with Ruth, corruption should be blamed. But look at this situation, that if private businesses are looking into the future, why is government scared to look into the future? And the future is legalization of industrial hemp or marijuana. So our idea as Roots Party is to run a profitable government, devoid from increasing taxes from Kenyans, from getting further debt, but we are going to look for our own money. Our own money will come from legalizing a regulation of marijuana. Case in time, a pilot study will be Kulalu Galana, the 1 million acre project. Iyo ikiwa 1 million, that is times 5 of what China got in 2021. So we'll have 6 billion USD. You can do the math in Kenyan shillings. That money is money that will be used to pay teachers, pay the civil service, increase their salaries in trenches. So for us, tunaangalia competitive edge, what private businesses do.
Niulize Justina swali kidogo. Kuna kuanga na employee incentives. Ukifanya kazi kwa bakery, huwa wakati mwingine unapatiwa mkate uende nayo nyumbani. Na je, bangi watenda nyumbani na nini?
Watenda nyumbani na very good question. Watenda nyumbani na proceeds of bangi. And it's good you brought me to this idea. The youth in this country, not all of them want to be employed. But hawa vijana wanatafuta capital. Unaenda bank unaitishwa logbook, title deed. Kweli, you don't have. What we are going to do with Roots Party, I told you government owns 10% of 144 million acres. In every county, government land will give 200,000 acres to our youth. We'll have a thing like the Yali project, which we are calling Roots Entrepreneurship Initiative. Tunafanya competition, tunachukua 50,000 youth. Kwa hiyo mradi ya 200,000 acres. Na ujue bangi grows in 4 months. So akishauza hiyo bangi yake, hiyo proceeds, 2.8 million according to hesabu za China, youth atakuwa na capital, seed capital ama capital to boost their business. So you won't take home bangi, Ruth. You'll take home capital for investment.
But ni illegal, lakini bado watu wanavuta. I don't know how we will deal with those incentives.
So those are the challenges in this country. In fact, we should ask the ones who are in government now, why is it illegal and Kenyans are smoking? That's the question to them.
Kwa hivyo Ruth, kwako wewe ni kuhalalisha kutohalalisha bangi au ni swala la maadili?
Kutohalalisha, the constitution does not allow.
Lakini unaona kwamba inahujumu maadili?
Sorry?
Inahujumu maadili au haswa tatizo lenu kama Agano Party ni kwamba bangi ni mbaya, haistahili kuhalalishwa au ni swala la maadili?
Ni maswala ya maadili na si Agano Party, ni wa Kenya. Kama it is already legal, it is currently illegal. So how safe is it? How safe is it when we start taking it up? That means we are destroying a whole generation. We're destroying our children. I am concerned as a Kenyan.
So you're being unfair to Ruth. You know Ruth cannot support our manifesto. So it's true atasema ni mbaya. But mimi na Kenya.
Let me give you some 60 more seconds, Ruth.
Yes.
Is it a question of faith and values that drives your opposition to the Roots Party's manifesto and proposal to engage in marijuana farming?
It is more values. It is more value and faith too, yes. It is more values and faith too. Because I'm trying to look at, right now, currently what is happening in Kenya right now. Nirudie statement. It is illegal. Lakini watoto wamejaa madhare. Wamama wanalia pale nje. So I'm wondering, how many are smiling? How many are going to smile? How many are educated out there to know that hii ni biashara, mtoto hafai kuvuta? Children are idle out there. Watajaribu kuvuta kidogo, and you know the consequence is going to be what we all know. Watoto tunapoteza ufahamu, tunapoteza future.
I think I was clear on the control measures on this, Ruth. Nilisema the seed will be CBD, tutatumia KEFIS, tutapatiana licenses, we'll reintroduce agricultural officers to man or inspect what Kenyans are doing, and we are also going to bring back the NYS, those ones who have graduated, to control government marijuana. So I think the control measures, and that is why we are saying legalize and regulate.
Unajua hata ile shamba iko thika pale ya mananasi iko na control measures, lakini bado watu wanaiba.
Sasa it is our Kenyans, we need to change tabia zetu venye Ruth anasema.
Yes, you take electrical fence, I don't know. I don't know.
Very well. Let me move you now to a different aspect of this debate.
Yes.
In 2 minutes, Justina, you're not alone in this race to become the next deputy president. You also have Martha Karua, Rigathi Gachagua. What sets you apart from them? And are there issues that you agree with them and their manifestos, and those that you don't agree with? In 2 minutes.
Let me first say I respect the ones you've mentioned, because I remember 30 years ago, I was a young girl that had been in politics. So being on the same ballot paper with them is very humbling. And there are strides they have made, fighting for democracy of this country. So I respect that. But what sets us apart is that 30 years they have been there. They have been telling us the same narrative, which they're telling us now. They are not responsive to the youth of this country. Youth whose parents took out loans to educate them, and they're still living at home because they're unemployed. What sets me apart is because I can relate to the youth of this country who know that unasoma na hakuna kazi. That is number one. Number two, I can relate to the businessmen. Maybe them, they're in government, they've been in leadership. That is where they draw their salary. But I relate to a businessman, like from where I work now. We're into excavation and supply of building materials. And Kashori, I can tell you, business is down. Why? Increase of cement, chuma zimepanda bei, Kenyans do not have purchasing power to build a house. And that business is very satisfying, because you know our role is what? We are the first stroke of paint. When you want to build your house, sindo tunatoa cotton. But it saddens me that Kenyans cannot afford. They are not building, and neither are they affording to pay rent. So that is what sets me apart. I know that what we need now is policies and leadership that is responsive to the plight of Kenyans.
Madam Ruth, same question to you. This is a political competition. You're not in the race alone.
Yes.
What would you use to convince the Kenyan voters, to elect you as the next deputy president and not your competitors, Rigathi Gachagua, Martha Karua, and in this case, Justina Wamai? Let's first talk about the other two who are not in this debate.
Yeah, at least for Justina, we have probably a lot in common because we are new, we are fresh. But our competitors, yes, they have experience, but they have let us down. I have voted for the last 2 decades. I have chosen the same. So I don't see what difference they are coming to bring in. because I feel like some of them are sanitizing the leaders who have been there. We want new blood, we want fresh blood, fresh ideas, so that we gear this country to a different direction.
What is this new idea, fresh idea? What does it constitute?
Corruption. Our big agenda is corruption. It has eaten us in big ways and in every way. So corruption is our bangi. So that is what we are after. Then the rest will be able to be balanced out.
Justina, the same question. What about the larger coalition setup? You know, let's say the Azimio setup, the Kenya Kwanza setup. Do you see any challenge there that would inhibit you from becoming the next deputy president, for example?
No, I'm not challenged in any way. Kashori, I told you that Roots Party realized